You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 5th part of What If Deku and Hero Academia Joins Super Sentai. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of GokuMuto on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Hero Public Safety Commission Conference Room, night. Last night. After Ren's message was seen by everyone in Japan and the rest of the world, some people dismissed it as the words of a crazy punk kid who was looking to get attention, but others started to think about what Ren said and started to question the actions of heroes. So the Hero Public Safety Commission called an emergency meeting with Japan's most infamous heroes to deal with the Go Busters problem before it gets even more out of control. And that is the situation, ladies and gentlemen. Sayaka said as she finished her presentation to those assembled. Sitting at the table with her were Nizu, Midnight, Eraserhead, Power Loader, All Might, Death Arms, Kamui Woods, Mount Lady, Backdraft Mandalay, Edge Shot, Gang Orca, Best Jeanist, Ryukyu, Miruko, Endeavor, Hawks, as well as a few other pro-heroes and people that work for the Hero Public Safety Commission. One is an elderly-looking man with a long white beard, bald head, and pale orange eyes with black scara. His hero costume is a full set of Japanese armor with a red cape wrapped around his torso. His helmet notably has one large horn pointing upwards. Equipped hero, Yoroi Musha, the former number 9 pro hero. He is a man with messy brown hair and black eyes. His hero costume consists of a blue and white, skin-tight, long-sleeved shirt that tucks into his orange gloves. He wears dark pants, and white boots, and sports a signature helmet that features a fish-like fin and blue visor. His name is Masaki Mizushima, also known as Normal Hero, Manual. Another one was a well-built man with black hair combed backward, with a streak of grayish-white hair running down from the center of his hairline. The back of his right hand had a layer of crust, probably due to his quirk. His hero costume consisted of a black mask over his eyes, and attire similar to the armor Spartans would wear, including a green hooded cape and a black shirt that appears to be stitched down the middle with a red pattern. His name is Shield Hero. Crust was the number 6 pro hero. The last hero is a curvy woman with long blonde hair that is styled in curly locks in the front with folded curls in the back that is pressed by a curved plate and golden eyes with vertically slit pupils. Her most distinguishing feature is the 3 snakes that are seen protruding from her hair. In her hero costume, she wears a maroon dress with scale-like details, matching high heels, a choker, and golden snake-like bracelets on her wrists and ankles. Her name is Snake Hero, Yawabumi. She is a pro hero and a celebrity. Tensei Ida, also known as Turbo Hero, Ingenium, was there dressed in his hero outfit. Also sitting at the table was Detective Tsukachi and a man who looked like a dog. He is a very tall, sturdily built man with the head of a beagle. The area around his eyes and his ears is a dark brown, the 2 sides separated by a tan line that runs down his forehead, widening at his muzzle, which is flecked with pale brown. He has a large, black nose and dark eyes, and, although the rest of his body is of normal human shape, his skin appears to be the same tan color as most of his face. He wears a suit, consisting of a dress shirt, and waistcoat, over which he wears an unbuttoned black blazer and matching dress pants underneath. He has a belt with a large buckle and a black and white tie that resembles a Dalmatian's coat. His name is Kenji Tsuragami, the chief of the police force. They were all looking at multiple holograms in the middle of the table. The image projected was of the masked vigilante that had surfaced 2 weeks ago that dubbed himself as the Red Buster, along with his new partner in crime the Blue Buster. As personal information of both Ren and Izuka was up for everyone to see, with little to none on Ren since he was new to this world. Most of the heroes and the members of the HPSC reacted neutrally while a small group glared at the figure in annoyance. A key example was Endeavor, who scowled in rage at the sight of the vigilante. They were discussing how to deal with the Go-Busters, with most of the pro-heroes saying that the Sentai team should be arrested and have their technology taken away to be used by the heroes, while some were in agreement with what Ren said and supported the vigilantes. That surprised a few people in the room. The argument does not reach an agreement from both sides, so Nizu suggests a proposal that shocked everyone in the room, with All Might and Miruko supporting the idea of the small animal. This proposal made Endeavor angry, along with an old man in a black suit, who suggested taking the Go-Busters technology. His name is Jayuno Wada, the vice president of the Hero Public Safety Commission. Everyone else seems to have come to an agreement to fellow Nizu's plan for handling the Super Sentai matter, with him smiling like he usually does as his plan is underway. Well, Mr. Midoriya and Mr. Amamiya, I hope you both will attend this school in the hero course where you belong. Nizu thought to himself that tomorrow would be interesting. Midoriya resident, afternoon. Present. Will, this isn't awkward at all. Ren thought sarcastically, while he had to fight the urge to smirk, and all of them were sitting down in the living room. It was honestly funny seeing Eraserhead aka Aizawa, and Nizu trying to study him like he was a textbook, Toshinori, Midoriya, Nick, Eri, and Inko having nervous expressions on their faces, and Tsukachi looking awkwardly at him. He didn't even need to know why they were here in the first place. So, what do I or we owe the pleasure of having the Dean of UA doing here? Ren asked as broke the silence. Good to see you again, Amamiya, Nick, and Eri, though I wish it was under better circumstances, Toshinori said to him. It's good to see you, Nick, and Eri again, but to be honest, I wasn't expecting to see you again, at least like this, Tsukachi said with a weak grin. Eri just nodded quietly to them while holding on to Inko. Yeah, Nick said, rubbing his back head. Me neither, Ren said, not expecting to see them again. But before we start talking, do you mind including the pro-heroes that are currently waiting outside the apartment? He said with no small amount of sass, causing everyone there to go wide-eyed at how he knew about them, except for Nizu, who just grinned madly at the boy's cleverness. What? Inko and Midoriya both said with stunned looks. So you know we didn't come here alone. Impressive. Nizu complimented the boy with a smile. Concerning what we did yesterday, you didn't want to take any chances, Ren said to him before standing up as he walked out the front door and called out. You all might as well come inside, we know you're out there. He said to the heroes in hiding before walking back inside with the door still open. The heroes looked at each other and shrugged before walking inside the house. The heroes that entered the apartment were Midnight, Miruko, Ryukyu, Mandalay, Ragdoll, Pixie Bob, and Tiger. Along with Mirio, Nijire, and Tamaki, wearing their hero outfits as well. Mirio was wearing a white skin-tight top with the number 1,000,000 stamped across his chest in a bold, yellow font. The trimming on the top and shoulder pads are made in a matching fashion. On his waist, 2 green lines act as a belt, along with some lines of similar appearance on his shoulders, which dip in places to form 2 V's. He also wears baggy dark blue pants and white knee-high boots. He wears a red cape as well as thick gloves of matching color. His costume is then topped off with a white visor with yellow lenses. Nijire was wearing a royal blue skin-tight bodysuit with a high black collar, pale mint green markings covering her torso from over her shoulders to between her legs, framed with turquoise, a matching stripe of the same 2 colors around both of her upper arms. On her feet, she wears a pair of knee-high boots, a thinning flap buttoned on each thigh, with turquoise spirals around her ankles, matching the thicker ones above her yellow gauntlets and wrist guards. She has a black strap around the top of each thigh, 2 small satchels attached, and 2 spiraling horns of hair protruding from behind her ears that are shaped as a reference to her quirk. And, Tamaki was wearing a bodysuit decorated with gold plating around the arms and shoulders. He dons a white tunic as well as a matching cape and hood that features more gold plating on the top of the hood. The cape connects to a scarf-like collar that features a silver mask on the front. He also sports a purple mask over his face as well as a matching purple carrier vest with red straps. He wears a mask over his eyes and is barefoot, which gives him more freedom when he's using his quirk. Okay, I know a few of them but not those 3 kids. Ren thought as they made their way back to the living room. So, he was interrupted by the Nijire zipping over to Midoriya, so quickly he could barely see her move. Nijire was maybe a centimeter or 2 shorter than Midoriya and was right in his face, but right now, she towered over his seated form. So you're the Blue Buster. Did you fight Quirkless against the sludge villain? How strong are you? How does that outfit of yours appear? What are the Super Sentai? She was asking question after question. She's so close. Midoriya panicked while leaning back in his seat with a crimson look on his face. And so pretty. Those who did not know about Nijire's nature just looked at her weirdly. Ha! That intern of yours is still the same as ever, Ryukyu. Ragdoll giggled. Ryukyu just sighed to herself as she pitied the green-haired boy being hounded by the millions of questions of Nijire, with the dragon heroine being used to the blue-haired girl's curious nature. What the hell? Ren said looking at the girl invading Midoriya's personal space. She's asking even more questions than Izuku, Nick said out loud. Sorry about her, Mirio said placing a hand on Ren's shoulder. Nijire has a very curious mind and asks questions to anyone that catches her attention. He gives an apology to the Sentai. So she's like Curious George. Ren quoted out loud making the blonde second-year laugh even more. You're a real funny guy. Mirio said patting him back. The name's Mirio Togata. A second-year student at UA. He then pointed at Tamaki who was hiding his face with his hood. And that's my best friend, Tamaki Amajiki. Hey, there. You're doing a good job out there, but though I wish you would become a legal hero instead of this. Tamaki spoke quietly before looking the other way to avoid eye contact with him. Ren raised an eyebrow at this before looking back at Mirio. Is he okay? Ren asked before getting an answer. Yeah, he's fine. Just doesn't have a lot of self-confidence in himself. Mirio said to him. Oh. Ren said before feeling someone tapping his shoulder then turned to where they were. It was Pixie Bob, who was looking at him like he was a piece of steak ready to eat. Well hello there my little kitten, so you're the one who has been making such a big splash around here. Don't worry I don't mind getting wet. Pixie Bob said with a stuck tone and a look that promised danger. I need an adult. Ren stammered out as he took a step back from the woman. Oi, you cougar stop making him uncomfortable. Miruko said as she glared at the women. Cougar. Pixie Bob yelled in the offense. I'm 18 at heart. That's just really sad to hear. Ren thought with a sweat drop. Does this happen a lot? He asked. Yup, and she gets worse every year now that she's at an age to receive a mate. Midnight said to him with a smile. Soon the two got into one of their arguments before Ryukyu and Tiger had to break it up. Can you both give it a rest? Ryukyu said as she rolled her eyes while holding on to her rabbit friend. You to Pixie Bob. Tiger said holding his teammate back in his arms. I thought we were only to reveal ourselves if the situation called for it. Midnight said looking at Nizu. Oh, it has, this young man somehow knew where you all were, Nizu said while looking around. This young kid knew where trained pro heroes were. Ryukyu said in a calm but surprised tone. Yes, and he's very sharp for someone his age, Nizu answered back with a smile. Back to the Blue Buster, this was the first time Izuku was ever on the receiving end of this sort of questioning, and his mother was chuckling from seeing her son like this. Hi, I'm Nijire Hado. So good to finally meet you, Izuku Midoriya. Nijire said to him as she was looking forward to meeting the Blue Buster. How do you know me and why are you here? Midoriya asked nervously as he was still not used to talking with girls. Inko couldn't fight back the growing smile on her face to see her son talking to a girl. A very pretty one at that. Well, I asked Ryukyu to bring me and my friends here today, to meet you Go Busters. Nijire said, practically bouncing over to him. You were so cool against that villain. She got closer to him while pushing herself up against him. Midoriya had no response. He had no idea what to say or what to do. He could only make a small sound in response while feeling the second year's body on him. Thanks. Midoriya nervously said as his face was atomic red from how close she was to him. I can't believe I'm talking to a girl. Sup, kid, Miruko said to him with a grin, as she playfully punched his shoulder. What are you doing here, Miruko? We aren't supposed to meet up until next week. Ren asked her. What? Not happy to see me again? Miruko asked him in a fake hurt tone. I'm not complaining, but I would have rather not deal with you until next week. Ren said bluntly. This made the rabbit heroine slightly pouted with her arms crossed. You can be a real JRK kid. Even now I came all this way to see you and you still giving me the cold shoulder. Miruko said in a slightly annoyed tone. Ren just rolled his eyes at her before noticing someone else coming up to him. Excuse me, Amamiya. Mandalay said to him in a gentle tone, while wearing a smile. You may not know me, but my name is Shino Sosaki, and would like to personally thank you for saving my family. She said, giving him a little bow. Saved your family? Ren asked with a raised brow. I saved a lot of people, so you're going to have to be more clear. The water hoses, Mandalay said, making Ren's eyes slightly widen. My cousin and her husband wouldn't even be here right now if it wasn't for you. And for that, I can't thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. She said to him. Don't worry about it. I was just doing the right thing. Ren said to her, not making a big deal without it. Now that introductions are out of the way, I think it's time to get to the matter at hand. Nizu said, getting everyone back on track. Yes, we have much to discuss, Tsukachi said. As that said, everyone sat down in the empty spaces in the living room with Nijire sitting next and close to Izuku, with a big smile on her face and rested her head on his shoulder, as the green-haired boy was a nervous wreck being that close to a girl his age. Now, then let's get down to business. Nizu said with a smile. We're here today to talk to you about Go Buster's recent and past actions. He started with a slightly serious matter. If this is because of what happened yesterday, if so then I can tell you that it was not quirk usage due to the fact that me and Ren are quirkless, Midoriya said nervously to the men sitting there. You don't need to worry about that, young man. We've reviewed your files and it states that you are quirkless, and yet we saw you in action on television using such amazing abilities. Nizu grasped his paws together waiting for him to answer. And you, young Amamiya, a quirkless foreigner with no BRTH certificate, no ID, no address, absolutely no background history, and technology that puts any support gear to shame. He said, never losing his smile while looking at the Sentai. Ren was losing the urge to smirk, slowly but assuredly. Good start. He said sneakily. You must have been top of your class at school. Aizawa's eyes hardened, and the tips of his hair lifted as if there was a breeze in the room. Watch the attitude. You're already in trouble. Oh, really now? Ren said, raising an eyebrow. Enlighten me, then erase her head. What am I in trouble for anyway? Oh, boy. Everyone pro-hero in the room thought together because they knew Eraserhead. For one, active vigilantism. Aizawa started watching him with narrow eyes. There are videos of you defeating villains, and several witness reports matching your description from victims who were supposedly saved by you on different occasions. Do you have anything to say to that? You're welcome, and you people should pick up on the night patrols, Ren said back to him. In less than an appreciative mood, Aizawa glared at the boy. You are really pushing it, he said to the boy in an authoritative. Listen, kid. This isn't some game. Just because you have talent doesn't mean you can go out recklessly on your own and break the rules. You may think what you're doing is just, but there is always a price to pay for breaking the rules. You don't behave rationally at all, and if you keep this up, you're going to suffer worse consequences than being arrested. He lectures the boy in a stern tone. Ren's smirk immediately dropped and he frowned at what he was being asked to do. What are you getting at, Eraserhead? He retorted as everyone in the room could feel the tension between the two. Everything follows the system, anything out of the order causes chaos. You have been irrationally breaking laws the past few weeks without a second thought, and unlike you, we actually care to uphold those rules. We have hero schools for a reason, to help train those who want to be pros. If we decide that a student is not ready to handle the duties of a hero, then they will follow that rule or face the consequences. Aizawa replied hotly. Eraserhead wanted this boy to understand that even though he thought the Red Buster was impenetrable, there was going to come a time when his power would not be enough and his ego would not be able to recover if he ended up failing along the way and costing someone else their life. That was something every hero would eventually have to endure, and they would have to find a way to keep going. Ren uncrossed his arms and scowled deeply with a burning quiet fury. He narrowed his eyes as he directed his gaze at the pro. F you, Ren said in a low but dangerous tone that put everyone in the room on edge, as some of them moved out of the way of what might come. Aizawa narrowed his eyes back and activated his quirk with his eyes glowing red, and hair raises that could pretty much immediately anyone looking at them. But Ren didn't even flinch from Aizawa's gaze, then stood up from where he was sitting and walked up to him before the pro hero launched his capture at the boy to bind him in place. But Ren used his hyper speed to react quickly enough to catch both capture scarfs in his hand before pulling Aizawa up closer to him and looking into his red orbs. As the two stood there staring into each other's eyes with dangerous glares that would scare someone to PSS themselves. Midoriya's mouth was hanging open from how Ren spoke to the pro hero without hesitation, but wasn't that surprised with already knowing the type of person his new friend was and wasn't hesitant to speak his mind. Wait, those goggles, and I can't. Midoriya realized what was happening, and his hero nerd side took over. He's the Erasure hero, Eraserhead. He blurted out in awe. Ares shifted uncomfortably at this, not liking that Ren and a pro hero might come to trade blows with Inko holding on to her, as she was worried about what might happen next in her home. Toshinori was hesitant to jump in because he'd rather not see his colleague and student go trading blows with one another over what now seemed like a petty issue. Tsukachi of course clutched his left hand tightly, sharing similar feelings to Toshinori. Mirio, Nijire, and Tamaki were nervously sweating for what they perceived as blatant disrespect to their school teacher. They never imagined someone around their age to say "F you" to their teacher, Aizawa no less because of his reputation at UA. Midnight, Ryukyu, Mandalay, Ragdoll, Pixie Bob, and Tiger were nervous as this kid who was Japan's #1 vigilante was actually challenging the authority of Eraserhead without batting an eye. Miruko didn't hold back the grin on her face, as she was impressed by Ren's no taking any SHT from anyone attitude. In fact, seeing this actually turned the rabbit heroine on a bit, which was surprising by itself alone. Nizu just calmly observed the situation and saw how it would play out. Inko, cover Aries' ears please. Ren asked the green-haired woman as he didn't want his sister to hear the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Inko blinked confusingly at the request before getting the message and covered the poor girl's ears, as Eri just blinked in curiosity now that she couldn't hear anything no more. Eraserhead just stepped on a landmine. Nick commented quietly. First things first, lose the holier-than-thou attitude, because it's getting on my DMN nerves. Ren began calmly in a tone full of silent rage. Eraserhead growled and bared his teeth, as he continued to glare into the vigilante's eyes with his quirk. Second, I know that my actions the past few weeks have been a bit reckless, but I don't take orders from you or any of the other heroes. We both know that if I want to do something, then I'll do it regardless of what your laws may say. He warned the man. And one more thing. Ren leaned in more to Aizawa's eyes, as some of the people in the room had several drops of sweat coming off their faces at this point. Rules were made to be broken. I don't care who you heroes deem worthy enough to take on villains and save lives that are at or above their caliber. The way I see it is that my duty and responsibility as a Sentai always comes first. Ren said, letting go of the man's capture scarves before moving a few steps back from the hero, but was still glaring at him. Aizawa then blinked his eyes to stop using his quirk and his eyes returned back to normal. Everyone let out the breath they were holding now that the tension was gone. That being said, Aizawa, Ren was not done speaking his mind to the hero yet. I may respect you as a hero. But right now, you are AF hypocrite, who is spewing full bullshit. He stated calmly, shocking everyone into a state of disbelief again. Now Aizawa had the scariest reaction in his life. While his face didn't show anything different. Then he turned his quirk back on and continued to glare at Ren while looking at his soul. What do you mean? Aizawa asked slowly, but at the same time, he was impressed with the fact that he didn't cover beneath his gaze like many teenagers in the past. I meant what I said, Ren answered firmly, not showing any bit of fear. Compared to tokusatsu monsters and enemies, Shota Aizawa is an angry kitten. Only not cute as one. Look around you, because I know the type of person you are. You don't like students who aren't taking the work of heroes seriously. You said that they basically have no potential in ever being a pro. But you are okay with other heroes just like the students you don't approve of. It's kinda hypocritical, don't you think? He stated coldly at the man. Don't twist my words, and don't use them against me, boy. Aizawa threatened him with a glare, but he didn't back down. Yes, some heroes do act like my students. But I can't control those who aren't in my class. They don't contribute to society any help. They are not allowed to do our work. They gave us more harm than good. There are set rules and regulations that dictate what a person with a quirk can and cannot do. You have been rather defiant of those rules as of late. You expect me to just give you a free pass because your heart was in the right place and broke the rules anyway? He replied. Do you even hear yourself? Ren asked in disbelief, becoming angry with each second. If it wasn't for the Super Sentai or any other tokusatsu heroes, then this world would have already been conquered or destroyed by monsters. You and everyone else on the planet wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. Sometimes there are problems that even you pros can't solve, especially with your laws holding you back on what's more important to do. Sometimes people have to do something they shouldn't, even if their own mind is screaming not to, and even if society itself says no. That's how we live and evolve, by challenging limitations placed on us. He replied back to the man. Oh. And is that how you found yourself here? Aizawa asked in a harassed tone. I could arrest all of you for acting as vigilantes, you should keep that in mind before you start questioning my methods. So, I'll suggest for you to watch your tongue, boy, or else I will. He tried to threaten him, losing his patience with this one. Or what, you homeless hobo? You would expel me from UA? Just like you do to your entire class every single year, since working at UA. Ren asked with a shout, making Midoriya and Inko go pale from the new information. He did what? Midoriya asked in a girlish tone before looking at the UA students. Please tell me it's a joke, right? He asks in his normal voice. The big three awkwardly looked away from the green-haired boy, with Tamaki facing down to the floor, Mirio laughing nervously from the question, and Nijire looking the other way, while whistling innocently but failed to do so. This only made Midoriya even more nervous from the silence. Unfortunately, it's not a joke. Midnight said with a weak teasing smile. Aizawa is well known for expelling students on their first day of class. She confirmed. He's a teacher at the biggest superhero school in Japan and he expelled an entire class of students multiple times. Midoriya said with a look of disbelief, as it was so incredible that if he looked into a mirror he would burst down into laughter. But that's illegal, isn't it? Inko asked in a worried tone. UA teachers have free rein to run their class, however they see fit, Tsukachi said with an awkward smile. So in a sense, it's legal. Yup. The media had a field day on that one, not to mention a bunch of angry parents. Mandalay said with a lack of concern. That's how it goes in UA. It's the #1 school for a bunch of reasons. One of them is letting the teachers have full reign in their class. I think I will regret it, but I need to ask it. Nick commented with a tired sigh. How many students did he expel for all your teacher career? It's not your concern, and not important. Aizawa basically spat out. It is when you deprive young kids a chance to achieve their dreams and become something better. Ren argued with him. You have no right to break their hopes and dreams. I am pro-hero and teacher of UA, for years. I have experienced so much you couldn't even imagine in your worst nightmares. Aizawa shouted in anger, startling most of the people in the room. Well, as a Super Sentai, I've seen things that make your experiences look like child's play. Ren shouted back as both he and the hero were staring at each other down to see which one would back down. For all his years of being a teacher, Aizawa expelled in total. Nizu answered like he didn't witness the heavy argument between the two. 248 students. That was a drop that no one could expect. Ehe. Mostly all the people in the room, except for Eri, screamed in shock and disbelief. How much? 248. DMN, man. Miruko said, looking at the man in disbelief. I'm surprised that the HPSC didn't take his teaching license, Tiger commented while rubbing his back neck. I always knew that you expelled many kids, Ryukyu stated in shock. But I never expected to succeed over 3 digits. How can you even sleep knowing what you have done? Ragdoll said to him. It was a rational decision, because of their lack of heroism. Aizawa said in his defeats before stopping his power again. If they don't have the potential, then why give them false hope? He countered. What gives you the right to tell one's potential? Ren countered back at the man. Aizawa explained to me, what are your standards in accepting students then, huh? Quirks, strength, intelligence, connections, social status, experience, backgrounds. Was that the true reason why you expelled your students? Ren asked the man. I use only one criterion, a potential to become a pro, Aizawa answered dryly, looking into Sentai's eyes. I don't care about students' background or their past. All students are equal to me. While they agree to give their all and are ready to go beyond their capabilities, I will accept them. But if they don't have any potential at all, I will not waste my time on the lost cause. And I expel those who hadn't any potential to become real pros. He explained. You the worst, eraser. Ren stated in disgust at the view of the pro. How could you do that to them? You keep destroying kids' dreams without a second thought or even giving them a chance to prove themselves. It's unfair. The world is an unfair place, Aizawa stated with lowered eyes. And if you were my student, then I would expel you too. It's still wrong on many levels, Ren stated while pinching his nose in annoyance. I would understand if the ones you expelled were arrogant or dumb, then I would understand your reasons. And, I get you don't want someone dead because they are away in over their heads, but for F's sake man, you're a goddamn teacher. Teach them something first, then kick them out if they don't meet your standards. Your job is to train the next generation, not put them down. The Sentai's anger was starting to slowly show. Also, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I am not your student. You have no control over me. And you can't arrest me either since I don't have a quirk. I will not shut up when some hypocritical but insults my duty to protect this planet and every living creature on it for the wrong things. So you can go F yourself. He said in a fit of anger. Once again entire stand was speechless. All jaws were lying on the ground from the brave speech that Ren had just made. On one hand, he just earned the respect of anyone in the stand. But on the other hand, anyone who knows Eraserhead knows that he will not leave everything just like this. And judging by his face he will kill him. But, Ren wasn't done speaking. Wow. Midoriya said in an amazed tone with Inko removing her hands from Eri's ears. You're a pathetic man, Aizawa. Ren fired calmly while clenching his fist. He started to lose all his bit of patience with this man. As it stands, you heroes can't protect anything. What? Aizawa said with a confusing expression. It's because of your laws and riot government that restricts you from doing anyway. You heroes only see things in black and white, and don't bother to look in between the gray areas of society if it doesn't cover you. Act now and there will be no going back, but if you stay lapdogs of this superhuman society, you won't be able to protect anyone from this superhuman society. Ren spoke calmly this time. If you all die upholding rioted laws that benefit the ones who made them, then nothing can be saved. Not your comrades, not your loved ones, and especially not the people you swear to protect. His words were starting to affect the pro, with his face softening up. If there is something you want to protect, then you need to break out of the cracked cage that society forced you in. If there's something you can't protect, then break free from those rioted shackles tiring you down. Have you all continued to hold your tile of heroes in this manner just because of some stupid laws that change with the times? I say F that. I believe that it's the ironclad rules that you swear on your souls. The drive that is what made you want to be heroes in the first place. He said, giving another one of his speeches to everyone. All the people in the room could only watch in pure silence, all in pure awe at the Super Sentai lecture towards Eraserhead, giving out various reactions towards the viewers seeing him in a brand new light. Aizawa then suppressed a groan and rubbed tiredly at his temples as he fought what he felt was the start of a headache. He sighs lightly before asking something. This isn't a story in a comic book, kid. Have you ever thought what you would do if someone died because of you? Aizawa asked the boy. It was good to be confident, but it wasn't healthy to be conceited. But once again the Red Buster said something that left everyone in the room speechless. I'll bury them in my heart and I'll move on, Ren said without any hesitation, making them gasp in surprise. Look, I'm no fool. When you look at me, you see some stupid overconfident kid who is in over his head. But I'm not. I'm fully aware of the danger that I put myself in when I'm out fighting against villains and helping civilians. I know that one mistake could cost me everything and the people I'm trying to protect. But I'm a Super Sentai DMN. Whenever an innocent voice cries out, we will always be there. Wherever evil exists, there will always be Super Sentai to defeat it, no matter what personal cost it may bring them. The innocent can smile during the day and sleep during the night, because they know that whatever evil tried to ruin the peace, they have the Sentai looking out for them. Ren said with great seriousness in his voice, eyes, look, and stance. Basically, it was like staring at an entirely different person. It was overwhelming, the determination and solidarity that he spoke with that the heroes in the room believed him. They didn't think that Ren would have an answer like this. For a moment there was silence before the Nizu started cackling madly. Well done my boy, what a rousing speech. You have shown a will that would put many pros to shame. I think you owe the boy an explanation, Aizawa. Nizu said to the hobo-looking man. The man looked at Ren and frowned, running his hands through his hair before taking a sit. I apologize if my words seemed harsh or unfair, Amamiya. That was not my intent. I merely wanted to know what these Super Sentai are since we have no information on them. He said as he looked at the boy with a kind stare. Yes, we are all quite curious to know just who these Sentai are, Tsukachi said to him. That being said, Everyone else was in agreement to learn more about the Super Sentai, with Midoriya and Nijire being the most excited. Ren was quiet for a moment, thinking how he was going to explain something like this to all of them. Then he glanced over at All Might, who nodded to him with his sly smile. "Alright, then," Ren said, standing back down. "Like I said so many times before, the Super Sentai teams of heroes fight to protect the Earth from evil beings that threaten the planet." He explained as everyone was listening. It all started in 1975, when a powerful terrorist organization known as the Black Cross Army threatened to destroy the Earth. Black Cross Army? How bad were these terrorists? Ryukyu asked him. "Very bad, Ryukyu. They have secret bases all over the Earth, but their main base is located in Japan. They also use this army of monsters called Black Crusaders. Black Crusaders are human test subjects, who have been unwillingly operated on cybernetic surgery, and completely brainwashed. The Black Crusaders swear absolute loyalty to their leader, and if a Black Crusader even thinks of betrayal, the punishment is death." Ren explained that it was safe to say many people were disgusted and frightened at what they heard. "What the hell?" Miruko said in disbelief. "That's really terrifying." Tamaki muttered in a fearful tone from what he just heard. Toshinori gritted his teeth, as he already knew about this but still couldn't help the fact it made him angry. So this terrorist organization. Did the Sentai stop them? Mirio asked in a worried tone. "Yes, but I'm getting to that," Ren said as he continued his story. The only means of defense to fight against the Black Cross Army was an organization called Eagle. Eagle? Pixie Bob said with a confusing expression. "It stands for Earth Guard League, or Eagle for short. Eagle is a Japanese military defense organization that was formed by the United Nations to counter the Black Cross Army. Within Japan, there are various smaller branches of Eagle spread across the island. But unfortunately, in retaliation, the Black Cross Army destroys multiple Eagle headquarters across Japan, killing all but 5 people." Ren said as he surprised them. "And those 5 survivors, are they the Sentai?" Midoriya asked with his hand up. "Yeah, the first Super Sentai to ever appear on Earth," Ren said with a grin on his face. Those 5 remaining Eagle members were called back in to form a secret, more powerful team known as Goranger, the only force left that has a chance to stop the Black Cross Army and their evil leader. He said to them. After defeating the Black Cross Army and saving the world, new threats started to show up on the Earth as new Super Sentai teams were formed in order to stop them. "Just how many threats are we talking about here?" Ragdoll asked him in a curious, but also worried voice. "A lot, each one more dangerous than the last. You would be surprised by how many times the Earth came close to annihilation due to some evil alien invasions, demons from hell, time-traveling mutants, and killer robot empires. It was like there was a new threat to humanity almost every year," Ren said, making them worry even more. The heroes on the other hand had another shocked look on their faces from the information. "Wait, aliens? Like real-life aliens?" Tiger asked in a surprised tone. "Yeah," Ren said with a nod. "And just how many Sentai teams are there?" Mandalay asked in curiosity, as this was getting interesting to her and everyone else in the room listening. "There are 48 Super Sentai teams in total, with our team being the 36th team." Ren answered with everyone's jaws dropping on how many Sentai teams there are in existence. The exception being All Might and Nick, who already knew the truth. "Do you have any proof to back up these claims?" Aizawa asked for solid proof. "I believe that's my cue to step in." Everyone in the room jumps in shock at the sudden voice, except for Ren, Nick, and Toshinori, who recognized the voice. The heroes quickly got into combat forms and scanned the room for the source of the voice. "Everyone calm down," Toshinori said as he tried to calm down the group. "I ensure to you that this person is harmless." "How do you know that for sure?" Miruko said aggressively, not letting her guard down. "He speaks the truth, Rumi Usajiyama." Do not be alarmed. I have no intentions of harming any of you. The voice spoke again, as a ball of light appeared in the living room to reveal Zero, making his appearance in front of everyone. I am merely here to explain the situation to you all. He said with his usual smile. Who are you? And how did you get in here? Aizawa asked while using his quirk on the god with his capture scarf ready. Ragdoll was mostly surprised by this as her quirk didn't pick up his presence at all. Would everyone chill out? Me and Toshinori know this guy. Ren said, making everyone look at him. You do? Ryukyu said, raising a brow. Yes, he is trustworthy, Toshinori said to them. Thank you, Toshinori. Zero said with a smile. So mysterious stranger, just who are you? Nizu was the first to ask. I could tell you, but it would be quicker if I do this instead. Zero said before snapping his fingers to transfer information about himself to everyone in the room, making their eyes widen in shock at the truth, except for Ren, Nick, and Toshinori who already knew. You have got to be kidding me, Aizawa muttered under his breath with widened eyes. No way. Nijire said with her mouth hanging open. Holy, you're a freaking god. Miruko said out loud in surprise. Since you're a deity, you got to be strong. She then grins widely, so I wanna fight ya. As she pounded her fists together. You would lose. Midnight and Ryukyu both said together in sync while having a deadpan expression on their faces. Hey, at least it would be a good fight, Miruko said back to them with crossed arms. No. Zero just waved her off. Even if I wanted to fight you, I can't due to certain rules I've got to follow. He said to the rabbit girl, disappointed. So gods existed? Tamaki said, jaw slacked and gobsmacked. And he is responsible for judging people's fates, Mirio said, laughing a little. Tell about a killer job. He said, getting a deadpan look from his friend. Mr. Zero, sir. Midoriya asked with his hand up, as he was nervous to talk to a god. Yes, Izuku. Zero responded kindly. Why are you here? Midoriya asked in curiosity. I'm here because of you. Zero said to him with a smile. Me? Midoriya said back in confusion. What is it you want with my son? Inko was scared to ask. Nothing that will harm him. I just come to give him something that will help Izuku in the future. Zero said, which confused the people in the room on what he was going to do. What is it? Midoriya asked in curiosity. A new friend. Zero said with a smile. He's been wanting to meet you for a while now, and I kept him waiting long enough. He then snapped his fingers again and two balls of light suddenly appeared in front of everyone. As the light fades away, it reveals to be two robots, much to Nick's surprise. It can't be. Nick said with surprise while standing up. A blue robot that assembles a gorilla and a yellow robot assembles a rabbit. It was Gorosaki Banana and Usada Lettuce, the Buddy Roids, and partners of the Blue Buster and Yellow Buster. Then the lights on their faces began to lead up as the Buddy Roids' bodies started to move. Alright. We're in the new world. Usada said excitingly. I'm also super pumped. Gorosaki said, holding up his arms in the air. Gorosaki. Usada. Nick yelled out while running up to them and giving his two Buddy Roids a hug. I'm glad to see you both again. Hey, Nick. Nice to see you too. Gorosaki said back as Nick let go of the two of them. Yeah, well, you've been spending weeks with your partner, we've been waiting forever, Usada said to him. Hey, you can't blame me for that, Nick said back. Everyone in the room was fascinated to see the three robots moving and talking like they were humans. Okay, who is that robot? Midnight asked as she was interested in watching the three Buddy Roids reunion. Everyone, I would like you to meet Gorosaki Banana and Usada Lettuce. They're Buddy Roids just like Nick, and each of them are partners to the main Go Busters. Zero said to the group, then looked over at Izuku. Izuku, since you're the blue buster, Gorosaki over there is your personal buddy Royd. He said, making the boy's eyes widen. He's my buddy Royd. Midoriya said in disbelief while looking at Gorosaki. Yes, just like Nick is my partner. Gorosaki is your buddy Royd partner. Ren said to him. Hello Izuku, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person, Gorosaki said walking up to Midoriya and holding out his hand for a shake. Midoriya stood up from where he was sitting and greeted the buddy Royd with a smile. It's nice to meet you in Gorosaki. Let's get along with each other. He said, shaking his new partner's big hand. Likewise. Gorosaki happily said back. Look at you getting to know your human partner when I haven't even found mine yet, Usada said with a little evoi. Don't worry, Usada. You'll have your partner soon. Nick said to him. Let's hope it's not too long. Usada said back. There's still more I have to give you both. Zero said, snapping his fingers again, then out of nowhere 3 black briefcases with the Go Busters logo on them appeared on the living room table. What are those? Aizawa asked with a raised brow. They're team uniforms. Zero said as this pitched Ren, Midoriya, and Toshinori's attention. You mean the same uniforms that the original Go Busters team used on their mission? Ren asked in excitement as he walked up to the briefcases having a grin on his face. Midoriya also got up from where he was sitting to the briefcases, as he was sparkling with joy from learning about his own hero outfit. The very same ones. I took into account all measurements and heights, so they should fix you both well without any difficulty. Zero said to them. The one in the middle is yours, Ren, while the right is yours Izuku. But who's the 3-1 belongs to? Ryukyu asked the god. The yellow buster when she makes her appearance. Zero said as it almost sounded like he knew who the third buster would be. CC can we try them on? Midoriya asked the adults in the room to put on his new costume. I don't see a problem with it. In fact, I would love to see it. Nizu said wanting to see their uniforms. Yeah, I wanna see too. Nijire said bouncing in her seat like a child. Bet they'll look real heroic. Don't you think, Tamaki? Mirio said looking over at his friend. Tamaki didn't say anything but nodded to his opposite as he was a little interested in seeing their costumes. Come on, kids. Don't keep us waiting all day. Miruko said not in her usual aggressive tone, but more of an imposition one. The others agreed as well, then Midoriya and Ren grabbed their briefcases before heading back into Midoriya's room to change into their Go Busters team uniforms. Midoriya Resident, afternoon. After 3 minutes of waiting, the people in the living room heard heavy footsteps as the 2 Go Busters walked back into the room with a new look that impressed the people there. They were dressed in mostly black combat outfits and black combat boots with their respective colors in stripes on the arms, legs, and a pair near the neck with them being connected to the letters GB on the chest, with Ren's being red and Midoriya's being blue, as their morphin braces was attached on their left wrist. Whoa! Eri cried out in pure awe as she thought they looked really cool. Now those are hero costumes. Mirio said giving a thumbs up. Tamaki nodded in agreement. So cool. You both look like secret agents. Nijire said out loud as she wished her hero costume was that awesome. Yeah, like super spies. Ragdoll said in agreement. Now that's a hero costume. Not too flashy, but still leaves an impression. Tiger said as he looked their new looks. It's just like our team uniforms, Mandalay said flashing a smile upon seeing the Sentai's outfits. And I thought their hero outfits were cool, but black makes them look sexier. Midnight said licking her lips with lust. Oh, I can agree with you on that, Pixie Bob said getting into one of her moods when she saw an attractive guy. Midnight. Pixie Bob. They're still underage. Ryukyu warned the 2 corny women. But she was still impressed by their outfits nonetheless. Too late Ryukyu, that image is burnt into my brain, now that I have had a taste, more. Midnight said as she gave a look at them that looked downright feral and predatory. A look shared by the other female pro-heroes to the same degree. She has a point, you know, Ryukyu. Pixie Bob said as she smirked, looking at them like a pick of meat. Enough both you and act your ages. Aizawa, being the voice of reason, gazes back at the two boys as he has to admit that those uniforms did suit both of them well, and also liked the black design. It suits them really well. Tsukachi said as he was impressed with their costumes. They differently look like our old partners. Yusada said as he slightly wished his partner was here. No kidding. But seeing this feels like old times. Gorosaki said to them, feeling nostalgic. Yeah, like old times. Nick said, thinking back on his old partner. Those were the days. But we have new teammates now. He said as his fellow buddy Roids agreed. So, what do you both think? Zero asks, with the god being very pleased with his work. It's like a dream come true, Ren said with a grin as he was adjusting his left black glove. It fits perfectly well and the uniform is really easy to move in. Midoriya said happily as he was loving his new outfit. They even came with sunglasses. He held up a pair of black shades. Happy to hear that, go Busters. Now just a few more things to intend to. Zero said as he looked at Eri. Hello there, little one. He gave the little white-haired girl a warm smile. Eri let out a small hum while looking at the god with a fearful expression before pressing her face into Inko's chest. The green-haired mother held on to the little girl as she did with her son when he was younger. So young, but yet you suffered so much for someone your age. Zero said in a somber tone before Eri's gaze flickered back at the old man with him holding up his right hand. But your worries will soon end. He snapped his finger out loud. Then suddenly, Eri's whole body was covered in a white tin light for a few seconds before fading away, leaving the people in the room confused about what just happened to her. That light? What did you do to her? Ryukyu said in a cautious tone while narrowing her eyes at him. I just used some of my power to help keep her quirk in check and from running out of control again. You see, that little one over there has an unstable quirk that triggers her emotions. Zero explained his actions to them. This surprised Eri, as this man helped her with his power, and was confused about why. Also, check under her sleeves. Zero told them. Ren was confused by this until he walked up to his Shie and grabbed her by her left arm before rolling up her shirt sleeve, making both his and Eri's eyes widen in shock. The scars on her left arm are gone, Ren said in a shaken tone before rolling up her other arm's sleeves. And the ones on her other arm as well. He said, rolling back up his sister's sleeves. Both her leg scars are gone, by the way. Zero added. I guess you did more than fix her quirk control, right? Midnight asked the god in curiosity. Yes, someone like her shouldn't have scars like that at her age. Zero said in a gentle tone. After all, see that she is the cutest thing in the multiverse after all. He said with a grin. Agreed. Nick, Ren, Midoriya, Toshinori, and a few others agree with that statement, with Eri blushing a little from being called cute. You know, Yuya would usually say the same thing about me, Nijire said to her guy friends. Well, given your personality and how you act, it's not really surprising, Mirio said, laughing a little, with Tamaki nodding in agreement. Speaking of Eri's quirk. You know what it has done you? Ren asked the god in a slightly serious manner. It would really mean a lot to me if you told us what her powers are. He asked him. With that being said, everyone else in the room was now curious to know about Eri's quirk. Sure, why not, Ren? Zero said with a shrug before revealing the truth behind Eri's power. Her quirk is called Rewind. Eri can rewind anything organic back to a previous state. For example, picture a seed growing into a sapling, then to a full-grown tree, all with the passage of time. Eri's quirk does the exact opposite of that, turning the full-grown tree back into a sapling, and then into a seed. It could be used to undo a severed spine or regain a lost limb at the cost of being a bit younger, but what makes Eri's quirk especially dangerous is the fact that it has limits to how much it can rewind something. He explained, making everyone in the room shocked that one of the strongest quirks amongst the group belonged to someone so young. I did not see that one coming. Ren thought in amazement while looking over at his sister, who was also shocked to hear what her power was. A rewind quirk. Interesting. Midoriya said, writing down the information in his notebook. A quirk like hers can be useful in a lot of situations. Agreed, think of all the living she could help with a power like that, Mandalay said, thinking about how much Eri's power could help others. It really is an amazing power. Tiger said to himself. Eri was confused by what the others were saying about her quirk. They didn't look the least bit afraid after learning about it, unlike her mother and the people who had her captive. I want to keep this off the record, the last thing I don't want is for people to abuse her power. Ren said as he looked at my baby sister in worry. Aizawa nodded in agreement. I understand, but Eri needs to train her that power of hers, until she's able to handle it, or at least until she can control her quirk. He pointed out. I agree, but I don't want anyone treating her like a special case, I want her to be able to have a normal life, Ren said to them. Amamiya, with a power like hers, she needs to be monitored. Tsukachi told the Sentai. Ren glared hard at Tsukachi, who flinched as his eyes met his. I don't want her to be watched constantly just because of her power, once she learns to control it, I want her to choose her own path in life. He placed his right hand on top of his sister's head. While I do again, she needs to get her power under control, but whether she uses her quirk to help others or wants to live a normal life without using her power is up to her in the end. He spoke in a dead serious tone with no room for argument, as he put his feet down on the matter. No one said anything, as many were impressed by how the older brother was looking after his little sister well-being. Nizu hummed to himself before saying. I believe that is reasonable. He put his hands together. She can learn at UA with the help from the staff there, and she will be able to live a normal life, where she'll decide her own future when she's ready. Nizu offered to the boy. I can live with that. Ren agreed to those terms. See, can I really control my power like you said? Eri asked softly with a timid, yet curious voice. Yes, I know it can. Someday, I'm sure you'll be in control of your quirk. Ren said, rubbing her head. As long as you put in the hard work, anything is possible, Nick said to her. And we'll be there to help you, Midoriya promised with a gentle smile. Right, guys? Of course we will. Nijire smiled at the little girl. Helping people is what heroes do. And it's what my school does, Nizu added with a smile. Eri, UA is the perfect place to teach you how to safely use your quirk without fear. He said to the girl, making her feel a little better. Speaking of which, just who is this kid anyway? Miruko bluntly asked while eyeing the little girl. She doesn't look like your sister or anything. That's what we're typing to figure out, but we don't have any leads to that just yet. Tsukachi said that his investigation into Eri's past was not going anywhere in the past 2 weeks. But I'm pretty sure you do, don't you, Mr. Zero? He said, looking at the god. I can't tell you everything, because I have rules I must follow as well. But I can give you a name of the people who respect for Eri's pain and suffering. Zero said, looking at the heroes with a serious face, as everyone listened to what he was going to say. The Shie Hassaikai clan. The moment Zero meant that name, everyone's pro-hero plus Tsukachi's eyes widened in shock and horror, as they all knew well of that group of criminals. Ran, Midoriya, Inko, Mirio, Nijire, Tamaki, Nick, Yusada, and Gorosaki looked confused by that name, as they didn't know who this group was, unlike the heroes. Well, SHT. It those Miruko cursed out loud. They have been keeping a low profile until now, but it looks like they slipped up with Amamiya, Aizawa said with a serious look. Who's the Shie Hassaikai? Midoriya asked in confusion. Is that some kind of crime group? The Shie Hassaikai is a Yakuza organization that's been around since before pro heroes arose in the world, Tsukachi said to the kid, which made their eyes widen in shock. Yakuza? Midoriya shouted with shock. DMN. Mirio cursed under his breath at how serious this was getting. To think that there are still Yakuza around after we heroes took care of all of them. Ragdoll wondered in concern. I heard from Fat Gum that some of the Yakuza are responsible for selling the drag trigger. Amajiki said, remembering his team with his mentor. Not surprising given that they're involved in that type of business, Ryukyu said in frustration. It's worse than that, Ren said in an angry tone with everyone looking at him. These Yakuza group may have been physically abusing Eri, which explained all the scars on her body when we first saw them. He said as the people in the room who didn't know about it were horrified or raged by the information. Eri was now shaking in terror from the horrible memories with the evil man and was on the verge of tears until Inko did her best to comfort the poor girl's pain. It's fine. Everything going to be alright. They're not going to hurt you anymore. Inko said in a smooth tone while holding the girl in her arms, which calmed Aries down a bit as she was wrapping her arms around the woman in fear. Everyone in the room who saw the scared look on the little girl's face was boiling with rage at the people responsible for this. We need to look into this group as soon as possible. Toshinori said with seriousness as he couldn't forgive the monsters responsible for Aries' suffering, with the other pros in the room agreeing too. The Shie Hassaikai. Nizu thought to themselves with his eyes closed. It was much to go off on, but Zero gave them a lead on how Eri and the Yakuza are connected. We'll have to look more into this when we're done here, and to get both her and Ren into protection. Maybe the Midoriya family as well since they're involved in this now. He reopened his eyes. And last, but not least. Zero said before looking at the number one hero. Toshinori, the floor is yours. Toshinori looked at him and knew what the god meant. You don't mean? He said with seriousness. Yes, I do. Zero nodded to the man. I get that it's a secret that you can't just tell anyone, but everyone in this room can be trusted. Besides me, Ren is already giving out our secrets to everyone, so it's only fair that you do the same. He said to the number one hero. I think it might be for the best as well, Toshinori, Nizu said, getting his attention. We want to form a truthful relationship with them, and this will be the best way. The yellow-suited man looked around the room at everyone before sighing and speaking against them. Before we start, I would like to say that I am trusting you all and to keep questions until I finish. Toshinori said before a huge puff of smoke, and with a mighty laugh the smoke cleared and where the once small man stood all might. I am here. Haha. He said right before the smoke puffed back and he returned to his normal form, some blood spilling from his mouth. Everyone looked at this man in great, who was now identified as All Might. Okay, if no one else is going to say it, I will. What the F? Miruko shouted in pure shock and confusion. Unbelievable. Ryukyu said in awe as her eyes were widened. All Might. All the wild pussy cats said in sync from the reveal. Inko's mouth was out in confusion and shock as she didn't expect the number one hero to be in her home, let alone look like a skinny man. No way, Mirio said in surprise. Is that All Might? Amajiki muttered with widened eyes. But how? 1 minute he was a skeleton and then he was big and muscly. Niji's mind was blown from the reveal. Yeah, it is. Midoriya let out a couple of chuckles before answering while rubbing the back of his head. Indeed. Nizu said as he enjoyed everyone's reaction to this. He's the real deal, Nick said with a nod. Believe it, Ren said with a calm smiling expression. Uncle Tosh, Eri said with a tiny smile. At this point, everyone in the room looked over at the ones who were not freaked out by this, and that they seemed to be very calm about it too. How are you not freaking out? Pixie Bob asked, about to do just that. Because we already knew the truth. Ren said like it wasn't a big deal to me. The same with all the other staff members at UA, Aizawa said next as he didn't have much of a reaction. And a few others who know All Might's secret, Tsukachi added with a smile. Oh, yeah. Midnight nodded with a smile. We've known too, even now we just got here, Gorosaki said to them. Right, Rabbit. Yusada agreed. Inko didn't know how to make of this and it's been one crazy day for her. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no idea what's happening right now. She said out loud. Yeah, I second that feeling. Miruko said, glaring her red eyes at the group who knew about this. You all seem to know a lot about this. What the hell is going on? She demanded. Toshinori and Ren both sighed, knowing this was going to be a long story. You all may want to prepare yourself for this. Because this is going to be a difficult story to hear. Also, what I'm about to say is do not leave this room. Toshinori advised in a serious tone, as everyone looked at each other for a brief moment and nodded to each other. I know what you're all thinking. I'm not who I say I am. Well. A small puff of steam exploded out of the scrawny man's body before the giant muscled body of the famous All Might stood before them. Let me put those concerns to bed. I am in fact the one and only All Might. The symbol of peace. All Might announced while flexing his muscles to make a pose for them. That was all he was able to get out before imploding back to his weakened state and spraying BLD from his mouth again. The excitement of seeing the familiar shape of the most famous hero drained away for all of the females in the room like the flip of a coin, hero and teenager alike. Ryukyu wasn't sure if she should call a medic up here, but Tsukachi was looking at her as if to say. Trust me. He's fine. That tends to happen now and then. Tsukachi said as the dragon heroine had no idea what the detective knew here, but All Might looked anything but fine. But, nowadays I can't afford to spend much time as that guy, Toshinori said before he grabbed the hem of his suit short and began to pull it up to reveal his big ugly secret to the people in the room. Inko gasped in shock as she gazed at what was under that shirt and threw a hand over Eri's eyes to prevent the young girl from seeing the horror of injury. Ryukyu's eyes went wide and her mouth fell a little bit open. Miruko cringed and looked away, not wanting to see it anymore. Eri, she couldn't see anything because of what Inko was doing. All she could make out was her uncle pulling up his shirt but didn't know exactly what this gesture did. The sense of shock, disgust, sympathy, and fear coming from the rest of the room opened up a lot of possibilities, but she wasn't sure what was being shown to her. Izuku just turned away, not wanting to look at it again after the last time he saw it on that rooftop. Ren just slightly frowned with his head down to avoid looking at the injury again, as once was enough for him. Nijire's jaw was agape from the number one hero's injury and had a look of disbelief on her face. For one, she didn't have any questions to ask. Tamaki immediately bearded his hoodie over his face the second he saw the injury, as it was too much for him to handle. Mirio was stunned like a statue after seeing the horror injury on the hero, with his mind in a frenzy on how some like All might get injured. Ragdoll and Pixie Bob both run out of the room to the bathroom to vomit after seeing the injury, before returning a little while as they avoid looking at the injury again. Mandalay placed her left hand over her mouth to avoid screaming from the sight of the injury. Tiger turned his head to look the way as he couldn't bear looking at the number one hero's injury anyway more, with his fist balled up in frustration. Nick, Gorosaki, and Yusada quietly but sadly looked at the Toshinori, feeling sorry for the man. Zero didn't react from seeing the injury as he's seen worse in his line of work, but felt bad for the man. Nizu, Midnight, Aizawa, and Tsukachi had sour looks on their faces from seeing this but were reminded of silence. This was an injury I got in a very tough fight over 5 years ago. Toshinori started with a sad expression. I did all I could to heal afterward. But after all the surgeries needed to fix me up, I was left losing my entire stomach, and my respiratory system is damaged beyond repair. As everyone seated took that in, the number one hero let go of his shirt and let it fall, covering his disfigured torso again, Inko unshielding Aries' eyes. From that moment on, my power has been in a constant state of decline. Right now, it's at the point where I can only afford to stay in my hero form and work as All Might for about 3 hours per day. The rest of the time, this form you see before you, this is me. Toshinori finished his story. They couldn't believe it. None of them could. The symbol of peace. The number one hero. Freakin' All Might. He wasn't supposed to be this. He was supposed to be the guy always smiling, facing villains with that smirk of his, and always winning with that incredible strength of this. Now seeing that hole in his chest and hearing just how screwed up he is behind that smile, the image was shattered. Most of the people in the room absorbed this information as best they could. It was staggering. To know that the symbol of peace couldn't keep up his image for long was disheartening. Ryukyu remained silent as she took this in and tried to process it as logically as possible. All Might was the symbol of peace for a reason, but she knew not everyone knew everything about him. He had to have secrets. This being one of them, she never saw it coming. Miruko was left wondering just what was strong enough to do that to freakin' All Might of all people. The Big Three was having a hard time processing this as they never imagined that a villain could do this to All Might of all people. The Wild Will Pussycats had different reactions on how to handle this new information from the symbol of peace, as Had could not fight at his best anymore. They were concerned about what the future was in store for them without All Might in it. Inko was of course freaked out that a force out there was strong enough to render the most famous hero of all time to this scrawny man before her, but more so, she just looked at All Might worried. Does it hurt? You're wound? Inko asked softly. It was the first question asked and Toshinori could only give off a gentle smile in response to the green-haired woman. A little yes, but it's nothing I can't handle. I promise you. Toshinori responded with Inko sadly smiling back at him. I know that this might be hard for you all to accept, but this has to be said. Zero said as the attention was on him now. All Might or Toshinori Yagi isn't a god, he is a man. He can be killed, injured, and broken just like anyone else in your world. That's one of the main problems in your world. You people think you are almighty beings just because you're born with fancy superpowers. But at the end of the day, despite all of the fantastic abilities at your calling, you are still human. He wanted to get his point across. You aren't perfect. You have limits and weaknesses. You can get sick and die just like any normal person. He said, shaking his head, as this was one of the main problems in this world. They think having superpowers is everything, and that it makes you untouchable by some. But at the end of the day, quirks are bullshit. Everyone felt the pressure as the god said that. The sheer malice that came of his metallic mouth made everyone freeze. As fast as it came, it went away even faster. He's right, Aizawa spoke as he let out a heavy tired sigh. Most of us heroes tend to forget this, but we aren't invisible just because we have powers. All Might almost got killed by a villain that was just as strong as him and nearly survived it. We may make mistakes and fail at times, but we're willing to push ourselves to be better so that doesn't happen. He said, lifting the mood in the room. So, plus ultra then. Mirio shouted with his usual smile, getting a few laughs. Then the Red Buster spoke again to get the attention of the whole room. That's not all though. Toshinori, you need to tell them the most important thing about your power. Ren said to the number one hero. Toshinori sighed at this as he knew it couldn't be avoided. This was it. One of the reasons he was here. Before I say anything, I must ask that all of you swear vows of silence for what you're about to hear. Tsukachi, Zero, Nizu, Nick, young Amamiya, and a few other individuals already know about this, but I have to ensure that not a word of this leaves this room. Toshinori said in a strong stern voice that gave out his authority. This was starting to feel very familiar. Ren and Toshinori were expecting more of a fuss too. However, they didn't know just how big a secret that everyone in the room was already keeping themselves that was about to come out later. So not even a moment passed before they answered. I swear, Ryukyu promised. Me too, Mandalay added. Same here. Pixie Bob agreed. Your secret is safe with me. Ragdoll smiled. I won't say a word, All Might. Tiger yelled. You got it. Miruko assured. I promise. Inko nodded along with Eri. Sure, All Might, Midoriya said nervously. You can count on me. Mirio flashed an energetic thumbs up. My lips are sealed. Nijire said before zipping her lips. I am not a talker, but okay. Tamaki muttered with his head down. Okay, All Might. Gorisaki said. Right, Rabbit. Usada agreed. We promise. Midnight said. Aizawa nodded in silence as he agreed with the number one hero. Then Toshinori was going out on a limb doing the same, but he still went forward with this. Clenching his right hand into a fist, he was able to summon up enough power to buff up his arm and hold it forward, showing everyone listening. The name of my quirk is One for All. Toshinori told them the nature of his power and the story behind its origin. How it's passed down through different inheritors, how it grows stronger through enough generations, and everything about his worst enemy, all for one. The reactions of those present were varied. Midoriya, Eri, and Inko were shocked in surprise. All the pro-heroes, the big three, and the Buddy Royd's jaws were agape. Ren and Nick were surprised to learn about this all for one and that he was responsible for Toshinori created sight, while Nizu, Zero, and Tsukachi stayed completely silent, as they already knew the truth. This is a lot to take in. Ryukyu sighed, pressing her fingers against her forehead. Tell me about it. And the fact All Might has a quirk that can be passed on like a torch. Pixie Bob agreed with her headache. Of course, none of us will tell anyone. Right? Mandalay said looking at the others in the room. Absolutely. Tiger immediately agreed. This secret must be guarded. Could you imagine if someone like Endeavor knew about this? The guy would probably go even more batshit crazy than he is trying to be better than you. Miruko added on in a concerned tone. So yeah, I won't tell either. Agreed, the rational thing to do is to keep this secret from getting out, Aizawa said while rubbing his eyes as he signed heavily from the information. If it were to get out, not only would it cause societal unrest, but All Might would be a target to every villain hoping to steal the symbol of peace's quirk. Can it be stolen? No, Toshinori spoke firmly with confidence. From what my MSTR has told me about the quirk, One for All can only be passed down by ingesting the current holder's DNA, but only if the current holder allows it. It can't be taken forcefully by quirks like All for One's either. He confirmed. But that doesn't mean if it got out that All Might would be out of danger, even if he is the number one hero. Tsukachi said in worry for his friend. If it were to get out about One for All, villains would try and take people hostage so that All Might could give them his quirk. Ren added, which made some of them go pale from the thought. I know this goes without saying, but no one says a word about this to anyone. He said, getting nods from everyone. Alright, that settles the All Might's quirk issue. But you said before that there were 7 other users before you. Did they really all lose against All for One? Ragdoll asked the symbol of peace. Yes. Across all generations, he was responsible for the deaths of past One for All users, and the power was transferred to only those they deemed worthy of inheriting it. Toshinori explained. Generations? Ren parroted to himself. But wouldn't that mean All for One is hundreds of years old or more? We have reason to believe that he has a quirk that grants him increased longevity or stops his aging processes completely. Nizu theorized in a grim tone. That's a terrible thought, Nick commented. You know, of all the villains you faced, you never mentioned All for One. Miruko thought aloud, idly flexing her ears. He's the big bad, isn't he? Your archenemy. Why haven't any of us heard about this guy before? She asked a very good question as everyone was curious to know as well. Because the entire matter was covered up, Nizu spoke up this time in a serious manner. All for One was one of the most dangerous villains to ever appear in history. He poses a threat to the national security. So any involvement or interaction with him cannot be revealed to the general public. He explained. The battle between him and All Might was also kept under wraps to not alarm the public, Tsukachi added to the conversation. There's only a few who even know about this secret. Who is this guy anyway? Why does the government try to hide him so much? Gorosaki asked in concern. We're not trying to hide him, we're trying to kill him. Toshinori corrected, surprising the whole room. This came as an absolute shock to Midoriya, Nijire, Mirio, Tamaki, Eri, and Inko. Did the symbol of peace just admit wanting to kill a villain? Ryukyu, Miruko, Pixie Bob, Ragdoll, Mandalay Tiger, Midnight, Gorosaki, Usada, and Nick were perturbed at this revelation while Nizu, Aizawa, and Tsukachi exchanged forlorn glances. What do you mean? Midoriya asked in surprise. Do you all know the dark days of Japan? Nizu asks them. More or less, it was back when quirks started to appear in the world, and there's very little information on it since there's almost no information about it in public. Ren replied with a raised brow. This man has a very dangerous quirk, a quirk that he himself takes his name from, All for One. What does it do? He able to forcefully take someone's quirk then transfer it to others or to take it himself. Toshinori explains, shocking everyone in the room. He can take quirks. Nijire yelled, shocked while standing up from where she was sitting. How is that possible? I agree with Hago on this one. Quirks don't work like that. Midnight said as she was having a hard time believing this. They may be true, but All for One is a special case. Zero said to them. Indeed, that is a dangerous quirk, Usada said, understanding. So that's why he keeps hidden from the public? Inko asked in concern. If his name or quirk is revealed to the public, then there will be mass panic. Tsukachi explains the reason. After the death of my previous MSTR, I continued my training of mastering One for All I have ever wanted to do was to kill him. A day doesn't go by when I don't think about making him pay for every person he's killed and every life he's destroyed for his own mad ambitions. I had him dead to rights back at my fated battle with that madman. All it took was one punch and it would be over. He would no longer threaten the world and I would avenge my MSTR's death along with everyone he's slain. Toshinori paused, letting his words hang in the air for a bit before continuing. But I couldn't. I was scared. I was afraid that if I did take his life, if I did allow myself to go down that dark pit, I'll never come back. I hesitated. And now I'm paying for it every single day. He said with a regretful tone in his voice, as the man placed his hand where the injury was located. No one said a word as they felt bad for their symbol of peace and the suffering he had to go through because of that monster of a villain. But you beaten him, right? Tamaki was brave enough to ask. Toshinori felt his throat go dry. Apprehensively, he clasped his hands together and took a deep breath. Yes. I did consider ending him. He confessed. He was a psychopath monster that used and destroyed so many lives on his mad quest to take over Japan. So for the safety of everyone I took his life. But I thought heroes weren't supposed to kill anyone. Nijire said with a confused and slightly scared tone, as she was slightly shaken by the conversation. Oh, God. Here we go again. Ren thought while rolling his eyes at that naive way of thinking in this world. The heroes in this world all live by a very strict no-killing rule, no matter what. Even when facing off against superpowered villains, or gunmen with hostages, these heroes try their best to make sure everyone survives, with the villains just getting put in prison. Even people who committed the most severe of crimes are just arrested and sent to jail. While all the tokusatsu heroes don't take any joy in taking another human's life, depending on who it is they are dealing with, especially if they have turned themselves into a monster and cannot be redeemed or returned to normal, then they will not hesitate to put a stop to them entirely. Something Ren feels like these heroes would have a problem with when it comes to the way the tokusatsu heroes operate, but if only they knew how vastly different the tokusatsu series enemies were when compared to theirs. To Ren, the tokusatsu series enemies are all but no longer human. Many of them are monsters, yes, but for those few who resemble a human but can also transform into a monster, they are long gone from being a human. Midoriya noticed this, then grabbed onto her hand and gave her his usual smile to confront her. "You good, Nijire?" he said firmly in a gentle manner. Nijire was taken back, this with a slight blush on her face, as he could the girl by her first name, which made her happy. In response she simply smiled, her wide-toothed grin poking her blushing cheeks. "I'm fine now. Thanks Izuku," Nijire happily said, while subconscious threatened to take control and tackle the green-haired Sentai for a hug. She didn't know why, but there was something about Midoriya that got her attention. Inko, who witnessed this mentality, cheered her with a teasing grin, as the girl was interested in her son. While Gorisaki pumped in his arm in the air for support to see his new partner helping her. Normally, yes. But in some rare cases, we heroes have no choice but to take some villains' lives in order to stop them. Aizawa said in a bitter tone. "It's true," Toshinori said and added in. "Throughout my career as a hero, there were times when I had to kill a villain to protect civilians, or they were just too dangerous to keep alive. Just like what I did to All for One." "Indeed." Nizu spoke up next. "Even us heroes need to make such actions, and we hope you kids never have to make those choices yet." The other pro-heroes nodded their heads in agreement. They felt that the teens in the room shouldn't need to make such choices so soon. Not like they have a choice. Zero whispered to himself because he could already see their future. "Anyway, we're getting sidetracked," Miruko said, moving the conversation alone. "Concerning this, All for One didn't kill you, you're still standing. Are you sure you really can't be All Might any longer?" she questioned further. "Unfortunately, yes. After my fight with All for One, I'm not as strong as I used to be back in my days, and I can only maintain my enhanced form for only a few hours a day," Toshinori confessed, much to the dismay of everyone. "I'm steadily draining away my power each time I use it. Soon, I won't be able to continue my job as the symbol of peace. When that day comes, it will probably be young Amamiya who takes up the torch," he said, surprising everyone in the room. "You want to give your quirk to Ren?" Midoriya yelled in great shock. "Yes, because I deemed him worthy to be my successor," Toshinori said with a smile as he looked over at the red buster. "I was originally planning on going to UA as a teacher dash." Wait. Midoriya interrupted him with even greater shock. "You're going to be a teacher at UA?" he asked, as everyone in the room was also surprised to learn this. "Yes, I'll be teaching at UA starting next year, but back to the main point. I was planning on finding a student there to be my successor, but young Amamiya managed to catch my attention first," Toshinori said. "I had a feeling that you were going to choose him," Nizu said with a smile after seeing Ren in person, and could tell he would be the perfect candidate for One for All. "Sounds to me like you're putting a lot of pressure on this kid." Aizawa voiced his opinion, causing Toshinori to look down at his feet. "Yeah, does this mean he's the chosen one or something?" Miruko questioned as she wagged a finger at Ren. This seemed a little too fishy for her. "It's difficult to explain," Toshinori admitted to them. "Not that I don't disagree with your choice, Toshinori, but why Ren? He's technically one of the most wanted vigilantes in the county right now." Tsukachi asked his friend for an answer. "I didn't choose him right away. I had to make sure he was the one I was searching for to be my successor. Toshinori said to them. After hearing his speech against Muscular and talking to him in person, I saw that young Amamiya had the true heart of a hero. Vigilante or not, there's no other person on the planet I would trust my quirk with than him. He confessed to everyone. Yes, I don't think there's anyone else more suited than taking your power except him. Nizu could see the symbol of peace reasoning. And he agreed to be your successor? He asked. Not really, technically. Toshinori said awkwardly. What do you mean? Aizawa asked the hero with a raised brow. Me and Toshinori come to an arrangement. If he couldn't find a person to become his successor in time, then I would be the one to take one for all. Ren said to them, which made everyone look a little surprised as he didn't immediately take up All Might's power. What? You don't want his quirk? Ragdoll asked as if he was crazy. But why? With All Might's power, you can pretty much do anything. Midnight asked the boy. Yeah, it almost seems like a waste of an opportunity if you ask me. Miruko said as she wanted to know why he didn't want a power like All Might's. I have a number of reasons for not taking his quirk. But the main one of them is that I want to make a statement to this world. Ren said as he had a serious expression on his face. For too long now, the quirkless are treated like CRP, just for being powerless. I want to show the world that even a quirkless like myself can accomplish anything if they put their hearts and minds into it. I want to be a symbol of hope for every quirkless out there who faces discrimination every day. So I'm going to be the first ever quirkless hero in history and show everyone that being a hero isn't about having a flashy powerful quirk, it's about believing in yourself. Because if believe in yourself, you can do anything. He said with seriousness. Once Ren gave his reasoning, everyone in the room was stunned by this. They were amazed by the boy's resolve to make a statement like that. Midoriya was even more amazed by this as Ren was willing to go this far for the quirkless, as he was once again inspired by his new friend. I see he's already thinking about the future. Toshinori thought as he was once again impressed by his possible future successor. I see, he wants to be the quirkless version of the symbol of peace. A symbol for the quirkless. Nizu thought with a smile as he liked the idea. Ha ha ha. That's quite the goal you want to accomplish, kid. Tiger said with a laugh. With that attitude, I know you'll be able to reach it. I agree. A symbol for the quirkless is a really amazing goal. Mirio said as he was impressed. Yeah, it sounds super cool. Nijire added in as well with stars in her eyes. He's starting to remain a lot of Mirio, Tamaki said quietly to himself. Ren Oniai-chan is so cool. Eri said with a bright smile. I truly noble dream and goal. It turns me on. Midnight said as her friends gave her a weird look. How the hell are you even a teacher? Miruko asked in irritation as if parents were sane enough to let a woman like her be anywhere near their kids. Because people love me, Midnight said with a smug expression. Do we need to remind you that there are children here? Ryukyu said referring to Eri. Anyway, I plan on giving young Amamiya my quirk if I can't find anyone in time before my power runs out, Toshinori said to them. Then you might want to find your successor quickly soon. Zero said in a grim tone as everyone looked his way. Because you don't have the time or luxury to wait around. What do you mean by that? Toshinori asked in confusion. Before that, I have something to give you, Toshinori. Zero said holding out his hand at the symbol of peace before his hand started to glow white. Then suddenly, everyone watched as Toshinori's body was surrounded by a layer of light before something unexpected happened to him. What the? Toshinori cried out as he could feel his strength returning back to him, with the light around him fading before he lifted open his suit to everyone's eyes widened and jaws dropped to the ground in surprise at what they just witnessed. The once gruesome scar on the number one hero's stomach was completely gone without a trace whatsoever. Holy cow, his scar is gone. Roldog yelled out while pointing at his stomach. I can feel myself breathing easier again. Toshinori said in complete disbelief as he could feel a huge weight strain lifted off his body in his time double as he was shocked, making him look at Zero. How? Hello. I'm a god. I can pretty much do anything. Like healing your injury. Zero said with a teasing smile at the hero. Isn't that great, All Might? Midoriya said with joy in his voice. You're healed. Just like he did with Eri. Nick said in awe. Incredible. The injury is completely gone. Pixie Bob said in shock. Holy, freakin'. Super CRP. All Might said, inflated into his muscle form with much difficulty like before, while doing a myriad of poses. I've never felt so rejuvenated. Mr. Zero, I cannot thank you enough. You cannot believe the amount of pressure you remove from me. He said as he wiped a tear from his eye. No problem, just think of it as a thank you gift for keeping your promise to look after Ren, Zero replied while he rubbed the back of his neck. I restored your stomach and damaged organic back to the way it was and received most of your lost strength. You are not as strong as you used to be back in your prime, but still, each to keep you going as the symbol of peace for 12 more hours instead of 3. He shocked the room yet again. 12 hours? That's amazing. Now I don't have to worry about my time limit anymore. I can continue to do what a hero does best. All Might shouted as he was about to run out the door to fight crime and protect the city without reaching his limit again. Don't get carried away, you fool, Aizawa said, stopping the man from doing something stupid. He said 12 hours. That's half a day. If you ain't careful, you can still burn yourself out again. True, from what Zero said, he didn't completely heal you, more like he gave you more time as the symbol of peace, Mandalay said to him. Alright, sorry about that. I guess I got a little overexcited after my injury was healed. All Might said in embarrassment as his face was a little red before standing back down. It's fine, Toshinori. We're just really happy that our symbol of peace isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Tsukachi said as the other hero agreed with a nod. But why do this? Nizu said, giving the god a critical look. Don't get me wrong, Mr. Zero, I'm glad that you help All Might get most of his power back, but you must have a reason to do it, don't you? He asked suspiciously. Zero just closed his eyes and sighed heavily to himself. Normally I wouldn't say anything about this, but I like and respect you as a hero, All Might. So here it is. He said before reopening them and looked at the symbol of peace with a serious gaze. All for One is still alive. The god said. The mood in the room instantly darkened when he said that, as everyone was shell-shocked by the reveal. A monster that could take and give quirks to others was still alive. Everyone in the room was either scared, shocked, or surprised by this. How? I thought All Might end him. Aizawa asked with a serious expression. That is a serious problem indeed, Nizu said with a frown. How is he even still alive? Just like how you all saved All Might from his injuries, All for One had his own people to help save his life. But his fight with Toshinori also left him in a crippled state, so he's not as strong as he used to be, but still a dangerous threat that should not be taken lightly. Now he's out there waiting. And planning his next move. Zero explained to them. Then it seems my work is far from done. All Might said with frustration clear on his face, as almost everyone could feel the killing intent and malice coming from the number one hero. I must find a successor quickly, and prepare them for the task ahead, though I hope they never have to face him. He didn't want his next successor to face off against that monster. If I could make a suggestion. If you cause a successor, then you should give it to someone who is quirkless. Zero said as everyone looked at him in confusion. Why someone quirkless? Won't it be better for someone who does have a quirk? Mandalay asked as she had nothing against the quirkless, but wanted to know why the god suggested it. I can't say much as it would go against the rules that I'm bound by, but if one for all is passed on to a person who already has a quirk, their bodies wouldn't be able to handle it. Zero explained to them. A moment of silence took place for everyone to process this new information, as Midoriya spoke up when he realized what Zero was talking about. Wait, are you talking about the quirk singularity doomsday theory? Midoriya said to him, which got most of the adults' attitude. What the quirk singularity doomsday theory? Nijire asked as she didn't know. It's a theory that explains with each new generation, quirks as a whole grow stronger and more powerful. However, with this increase in power, the quirks will also become more difficult to control, since the human body doesn't evolve quickly enough to keep up. Eventually, scientists predict that there will come a point in time when quirks will become too overpowered and complicated, and no one will be able to control them anymore. Nizu explained smoothly, batting an eye. Oh. Nijire said with a nod as she mostly understood that. Is that why you wanted me to choose a quirkless person to be my successor? All Might asked the god in curiosity. That, and for another reason which I'm not going to say, as it is something you'll have to find out for yourself. Zero said as he didn't want to reveal too much information to them. Well, in any case, we need to quickly find a proper successor for All Might's quirk before All for One makes his move, Tsukachi said with seriousness. It might be best to inform Gran Torino about this as soon as possible. He suggested, which made the symbol of peace flinch in fear from the name alone. Who's Gran Torino? Is he a hero? Inko asked in curiosity. He's one of the few who knows about One for All and the one who trained me after the death of my MSTR. All Might said with some fear in his voice, but no one noticed it. Then he must be super strong if he was about to train you. Mirio said as he wanted to meet this man. You have no idea. All Might, as he still has nightmares from his training with his old MSTR. Anyway, now it's time to learn about the Super Sentai, Ren said, getting their attention on him and pressing some buttons on his morphin brace. Now witness their legacy. The morphin brace then suddenly displayed a holographic screen in front of the cast as it showed the army of colorful costumes heroes all standing together in a group with their respective teams. What the cast of heroes, students, and adults were seeing was every Super Sentai team in existence. All Might gave one of his smiles before powering down as he was happy and excited to see these great heroes again. Who are they? Midoriya asked in awe while drawing all the Sentai teams faster than he thought humanity possible. The past Super Sentai to the new generation. Ren said as the pro heroes, Big Three, Tsukachi, Midoriya, Inko, and Aries' jaws completely dropped in shock at the sheer size of all the Super Sentai members gathered together, as one by one began to make their team roll calls. We are Super Sentai. After all the roll call, posing, and morphing sequence from each of the Super Sentai teams was done, a gigantic long explosion erupted behind them, and it finished with a huge golden V with the writing Super Sentai in the middle of the big V. With the video now over and before anyone could comment, Zero snapped his fingers together to use his godly powers to transfer memories of Ren's previous life and everything about the Super Sentai into everyone's mind, except for Ren, Nick, Gorosaki, Yusada, and Toshinori. Just like what the number one hero experienced, everyone in the room except for Ren, Nick, Gorosaki, Yusada, and Toshinori, saw the memories of how Ren got to their world, and every Super Sentai battle. The memory transfer was well detailed for everyone to understand. It showed every Sentai team was called to action and battled evil beings that wanted to destroy or conquer their entire planet, and retired when the time came for them to enjoy their earned peace or to return back into action if needed. Also, Ren risked his life to save a young girl from being killed and was given a second chance to start a new life. The pro heroes, Big Three, Tsukachi, Midoriya, Inko, and Eri were absolutely stunned in pure astonishment by the information now implanted in their minds, as they were slowly processing this in their own way. They saw colorful costumes and heroes, who were quirkless fighting monsters and saving the day from evil. They've watched them do amazing feats of strength, speed, and skill in martial arts and weapons. They watched in awe as their mechs were summoned and destroyed monsters that towered over cities. Nizu, Aizawa, Midnight, Tsukachi, Ryukyu, Miruko, Mandalay, Ragdoll, Pixie Bob, and Tiger, were mind-blowing as if their view of heroism was just completely shattered. These quirkless heroes fought against creatures that made the villains of their world look harmless and technology years beyond anything in their world. No wonder Amamiya hated the heroes in their world and the system that they built. Compared to the Super Sentai, the heroes in their world don't even come close to their accomplishments. The hero who was shocked by this the most was battle-loving Miruko, as she had a shell-shocked expression on her face. She seems to believe that heroes who join teams are cowards and weaklings, as they could just be relying on their teammates' strength rather than their own. But after seeing the Super Sentai battles, she didn't know what to think anymore. Miruko wasn't a fool, she knew that she had limits and that there were opponents stronger than her, and the Sentai villains were on a whole other level than what she was used to dealing with. She knew that she wouldn't stand a chance against most of the monsters the Sentai fought and that teamwork was needed for victory. Here she is, a pro hero. And yet, a team of quirkless heroes isn't the least bit weak. Have I been wrong this whole time? The rabbit heroine can't help but wonder as she couldn't deny the fact the Super Sentai is better than her at being a hero, despite working together to stop their threats. Miruko's expression didn't go unnoticed as Ryukyu, Mandalay, Ragdoll, Pixie Bob, and Tiger. They know that the rabbit heroine hated teamwork and concrete anymore who worked with others weak. But seeing the memory transfer of the Super Sentai and the enemies they fight must have been a huge blow to her ego. They just smiled at their friend but did not say anything, as they secretly hoped seeing the Sentai's actions was enough to change her way of thinking about teamwork. Mirio, Nijire, and Tamaki had looks of absolute respect on their faces. Seeing the Super Sentai history has inspired the second-year students to become just as good as the Sentai, with Nijire having even more questions to ask the Go Buster. Midoriya was stunned in amazement as he saw quirkless heroes doing the impossible just for the sake of protecting their world from evil threats. It made him even happier to be a member of the Super Sentai and wished that they existed in his world. Airy eyes were shining like a Christmas tree at how cool the Super Sentai was and was even more impressed by her older brother. Inko was stunned with both happiness and awe at seeing what the Super Sentai faced every day, and now her son was a part of this world. She was afraid of the things Izuku might face in the future but was willing to support her son's dream of being a hero no matter what. Needless to say, everyone was beyond amazed by these teams of amazing heroes who were fighting for the planet. It also showed all of them that Ren was from another universe and wanted to make a new team of Super Sentai in their world. Now knowing everything about the Super Sentai teams and the things they had to fight in order to protect the people of their world. In fact, it was almost mind-blowing to see these amazing heroes. Judging from the looks on your faces, you saw everything about the Super Sentai. Toshinori said, breaking the silence. He couldn't help but grin, as he had the same expression as them when he learned about the Super Sentai. Yes, the Super Sentai is what all heroes strive to be. Nizu said with glee. I don't believe it, Tsukachi said as he was processing this the best he could. This is just too much, Mandalay said with a stunned look. Agreed, Ryukyu said weakly as she was still trying to get over her shock. Holy carp. I mean seriously, holy carp. These Super Sentai are definitely the challenge I've been looking for. Miruko said as she really wanted to fight against one of the Sentai now. They put us pro-heroes to shame, Ragdoll said with widened eyes. No wonder the Red Buster doesn't like us, Pixie Bob said in awe. Compared to the Super Sentai, we heroes really are a joke. Tiger said as he finished his teammate's sentence. Even in other worlds, there are still villains. Aizawa spoke in a stern tone with all the information he soaked in. Quirkless heroes, fighting to protect the Earth from the most dangerous of threats. Midoriya whispered quietly in awe, as he still couldn't believe what he saw from the Super Sentai. And now I'm a part of their legacy. He smiles brightly while looking at his morpher. Inko smiled at this, as Izuku was going to be one of these Sentai and be the hero he always dreamed of being when he was younger. Super Sentai is so cool. Eri said with her red eyes sparkling in joy from what she saw. That was awesome. Nijire exploded into excitement as she was floating in the air with her quirk. That was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. The monsters, giant robots, and other cool stuff. She had a cheerful smile lighting up her face. Nijire is in one of her modes again, Tamaki said to Mirio, as it would be impossible to calm her down now. I don't blame her. I mean, I also feel inspired after seeing the Super Sentai history. Mirio said with a proud smile. Wait, I thought we were nowhere close to having that level of technology, Mandalay said with a look of shock from what she just saw. That is true in your world because of quirks your technological and scientific advances have stalled, which may I say is very very disappointing. Zero said as had a tone that a mother would use when she was telling you I'm not mad I'm just disappointed. And somehow it hurt worse. Ah, yes I have noticed that too Zero, and I must say that it is worrying that we have slipped back into a dark age, so to speak, Nizu said in disappointment as he agreed with the god. That is beside the point anyway, and it's not just the Super Sentai who protect the world from evil. There's also the Kamen Riders, Ultraman, Space Sheriff, DC Heroes, and Marvel Heroes. Ren said confusing and shocking everyone in the room about there being more heroes. Kamen Riders? Eri asked cutely tilting her head with a look of curiosity. Ultraman. Midoriya said with interest. Space Sheriff? Tsukachi asked. Marvel Heroes? Mirio said with a grin. DC Heroes? Ragdoll said with a raised eyebrow. Toshinori is the only one who is confused by this, as he knows about these heroes and thinks to Ren tell him ahead of time about his time living with the boy. Young Amamiya, are telling us that there are more heroes besides the Super Sentai. Nizu was the one to ask the question. Yes, and each of them faced their own kind of threat similar to what the Sentai deal with, Ren said with a nod. But the kinds of enemies they face are the real deal. In fact, you may not even know it, but they have saved this world multiple times from forces far greater than anything your world has faced. Zero said with seriousness in his voice. After seeing what the Super Sentai deal with, I don't know your climbs, Aizawa said as the others agreed with him with a nod. I'll explain everything as best I can and Zero here will show you their history just like he did with the Sentai. Ren said getting a nod from the god before starting talking again. I'll start with the Kamen Riders. The Kamen Riders has 3 eras. The Showa, Heisei, and Riwaya eras. The Riders are quirkless people just like the Super Sentai, who gain their power through magic, mutations, and technology, and any of those powers can change into powerful battlers. The Kamen Riders are similar to the Super Sentai, but at the same time they aren't like them. What do you mean by that? Miruko asked him. While the Super Sentai fight to protect the Earth, the Kamen Riders fight to protect humanity. Ren said confusing them. But isn't that like the same thing? Nijire asked with her head tilting to the left. It isn't. Trust me, if you know the Super Sentai and Kamen Riders like I do you would understand, Ren said to her. The Kamen Riders are soldiers of justice, masked heroes that secretly protect people from monsters and evil organizations in the shadows. The Riders are defenders of the innocent and protectors of humanity's freedom. Even if it's a single dream of a child, they will defend them with their very own lives. While you guys think your quirks are some blessing in disguise. Having powers is considered a curse to Kamen Riders. Those who hold the device of justice will end up giving up something more than their personal time. But sometimes that isn't the case with some riders. He explained as everyone looked at him with looks of interest and fear. Most of the Kamen Riders are quirkless. So some are born special or have the special forced upon them. Everyone cringed at the forced part, thinking how horrible it is to be forced on a responsibility that you never wanted. Yet, They do their best to protect everything they love, and sometimes they succeed, but sometimes at what costs? Pixie Bob raised her hand. What were the costs? She asked with hesitation. Everything. Ren replied grimly. Sometimes everything. But no matter what, the Kamen Riders are willing to give up everything, even if it means giving up their own lives so others can sleep peacefully at night. He said to them as the room went silent with everyone taking in the information, before he continued. Before I say any more, there is something I want to ask you. He said to them. What? Tamaki muttered. Out. Who created Kamen Rider? Why does Kamen Rider exist? Ren asked the group. Then all of them are confused. Not even Midoriya, Toshinori, and Nizu can answer that question. Then, let me tell you something about the very first Kamen Rider, Ichigo, Ren said. Ichigo? Mandalay said with a raised eyebrow. Ichigo was, the original Kamen Rider, right, young Amamiya? Toshinori asked the boy as he was interested to learn more about these heroes. That's right. Ren said with a nod before asking something. The first question is, who created Kamen Rider? Kamen Rider was originally created by an organization called Shocker. Shocker? Eri said in confusion. So are they an organization of justice? They created Kamen Rider to help people. Midoriya said with a smile as he thought he was right. Only for Ren, Nick, Yusada, and even Zero to burst out laughing at what Midoriya said, with everyone in the room looking at them in confusion as to why they were laughing. But they couldn't blame the green-haired boy's ignorance, since he doesn't know a single thing about the Kamen Riders. That's wrong. Ren said, pointing at Midoriya before he stopped laughing and had on a serious expression. Huh? Wrong? Midoriya said, flinching back in confusion. Izuku. Gorosaki said, getting his partner's attention. Shocker wasn't the organization you think they were. He said in a grim tone. They weren't. Mirio said in his own confusion. No, they weren't. Shocker was an organization of evil. They wanted to create a Kamen Rider that was powerful enough to destroy anyone or anything that got in their way. Ren said as every one of them was shocked and looked at each other, except for the ones who knew the truth. Kamen Rider was created, for evil. Midnight said in disbelief. Unfortunately, yes. Zero said sadly with a light sigh. Most rider powers were created from evil intent. But why would they do that? Why create a Kamen Rider? Inko asked them. Just like the Black Cross Army, their objective was to also rule over the entire world. Shocker was formed by the mysterious great leader, who had ties to the Nazis. Ren explains before hearing a loud shout. Nazis? Most of the room shouted in pure shock, as they did not expect the Nazis to be involved in an evil organization. Yeah, I know, shocking. Anyway, Shocker's scientists performed surgical alterations that gave the subject superhuman fighting abilities. Even the most basic Shocker combat man was tougher, stronger, and faster than the average human civilian. The most powerful of their forces were the monster, modified humans who were combined with animal DNA and human cybernetics to create living weapons. Ruthless and merciless, Shocker would often kidnap prominent scientists and force them to work for the organization, then kill them when their usefulness was at an end or if they attempted to escape. Ren explained that some of the people in the room like Inko, Eri, and Izuku were horrified by this, as all the pro-heroes and hero students couldn't help but be beyond disgusted and angry by such a group of villains. To think such a group of people could be so evil. No matter what world, villains will always be villains. Aizawa said as his anger was getting the best of him. Yeah, makes sense, since the whole group was created by a Nazi BSTRD, Miruko said while tipping her foot on the floor hard in frustration, as it looked like it was going to break. Nazis were well known throughout history for their brutality. Nizu said as he was furious with anger with how the shocker would kidnap their victims and kill them when they outlived their usefulness. The shockers were already a dangerous group even without the Kamen Rider. But they wanted to create a superpowered cyborg that could help them take over the world more easily. So they kidnapped a man named Takashi Hongo, and experimented on him. Ren said as everyone, especially the pro-heroes, was beyond disgusted and angry by what they heard. Nizu was the most heated up by this but didn't show it, as it brought back some unpleasant memories of his own when he was experimented on by humans. Eri flinched when she heard the word experimented, as it brought back the painful memories of her time with Overhaul until Ren saved her from that nightmare. She was holding on to Inko tightly as the white-haired girl was shaking in concern with Inko confronting her nerves the best she could. But before the shockers could brainwash Takashi into their mindless puppet, he escapes their headquarters and uses his new power to fight against the shocker. Henceforth, the first rider was born. Kamen Rider Ichigo. Ren explained as they sighed in relief to know that Takashi escaped before the shocker could brainwash him and use his new power to fight against the evil organization. So why did they fight for the good? Mandalay asked, wanting to know more. It's because the chosen man to be the Kamen Rider. Hanyu Takashi, Kamen Rider Ichigo, he vowing to defend peace and justice for humankind. He is willing to face overwhelming odds against himself, and with his kind-hearted soul, he tries to help those in need. But despite that, he is aware that Shocker's soldier was once human, now turned into a monster, and he can't help but feel sorry for them. Despite being more human in the Shocker's experiments, he is less human nature and self-loathing himself and begins to distance himself from those around him. He said as they couldn't help but feel sorry for Ichigo. It's not easy to kill those who were once human, having your humanity taken away from you and distinguishing yourself from those close to him. But over time Takashi learns to accept himself and gain a new form to battle again the shocker. While he may distance himself from the people, he cares deeply for those around him. Takashi rescued a man known as Hayato Ikemanji, who became Kamen Rider Nigo. He helps Takashi and together they defeat the shocker and a new rider is a form. He finished explaining to everyone. Now they couldn't help but be amazed. They are amazed as Takashi accepts himself as who he truly is instead of what he has become and creates the mantle of Kamen Rider. They also felt glad that Hayato was helping out Takashi and destroying the shocker completely. But now they are curious about the Kamen Riders that come before them, just like the Super Sentai. So that means, did he choose his own path? Despite his powers coming from evil? Ryukyu said in an amazed tone. Yep. Zero said with a nod as he smiled at her. Like every other rider that came after him, Ichigo took the call of action because he knew it was the right thing to do and his heart made sure he took that righteous path. Incredible. Midoriya said in awe while writing this down in his notebook. What truly noble heroes, Tsukachi said with a smile. Man, these Kamen Riders sound like good opponents to take on in a fight. Miruko said with a mad grin as she wished to take on a rider in combat. More. I want to know more. Nijire was unable to contain her excitement about what she heard. Come on, Nijire. Calm down. Tamaki said to his friend. I can't help it. The more I hear about these Kamen Riders and Super Sentai, I just can't help but to know more about them. Nijire said with a beaming smile. We know, and to be honest I feel the same way. These quirkless heroes sound like the type of people to look up to. Mirio said with his usual laugh. I wonder if Sir would be interested in learning about this. He thought to himself. Toshinori couldn't help but think that the Kamen Rider's powers were similar to his quirk. One for All was also originally created with evil intent but was used for the good of justice and protecting lives. I guess One for All and the Kamen Rider powers are not so different from one another. Toshinori thought with a smile. And now the second one, why does Kamen Rider exist? Ren said, getting the attention back on him. It's because of the evil beings that exist in their world, Nizu said as he was enjoying this. Correct. Kamen Rider can't just sit by and watch evil organizations destroy and rule their world. They need to take action. That is why Kamen Rider evolved from the Showa era to the VERYYYY era. Ren said to them before adding something else. And until you heroes, they don't let rules or laws stop them from doing the right thing. That's great. Sound like my kind of heroes. Tiger said, flexing his muscles a little. Yeah. Ragdoll agreed with a smile. Kamen Riders are defenders of justice just like the Super Sentai. Midoriya said with excitement. But. Ren said as everyone looked at him again with the boy having a slightly grim look on his face. Some Kamen Riders didn't use their power for good. They use it to do what they want. This shocked the group again. Are you saying there are evil Kamen Riders too? Aizawa asked in a stern but worrisome tone. Yes, there are, Ren said with a sigh. And that is? Pixie Bob asked in a confused shaken voice. I thought Kamen Riders are the good guys. Unfortunately that's not the case. Some Kamen Riders, they're those who gain the powers of a Kamen Rider and use it for vile, selfish, and destructive purposes. They are known as Dark Riders. Warrior of chaos, despair, and evil. They will go to any lengths to achieve their goals. No matter the cost. Riders have their morals, some are good and some are bad. Some have gone off the deep end to exclaim that he or she is God and proceed to become the most insane man or woman to have ever seen. It's just like how people in your world decide whether they become a hero or villain. Zero explained that this shocks everyone about evil Kamen Riders existing. They thought they were all the same, but they couldn't be more wrong. Now they all know that not only good Kamen Riders exist, and it sends a cold shiver down each of their backs. But how did this happen? Toshinori was brave enough to ask the question. It all started in the Heisei era, from Kamen Rider Ryuki's generation during the Rider War. Some Kamen Riders used their power to kill other riders rather than defend the people. That is the start of the generation of evil Kamen Riders. Ren explained as everyone was shocked after hearing what he said. Midoriya was very saddened by this, as some of the riders would use their power for evil instead of good. But it can't be helped since he can't decide another person's path instead of his own. Well, this SHT just went to plus ultra, Miruko grumbled just thinking about these dark riders. It's sad to hear that some Kamen Riders choose the path of villainy. But it's not like you can control how a person uses their powers. Midnight said sadly with her eyes closed. Let's just hope the riders deal with their evil counterparts, Ryukyu said to everyone. Anyway, moving on to the next group of heroes. Ren said, moving the conversation on. Who are they? Inko asked as she and everyone else were getting interested in the Quirkless heroes. The heroes are known as the Space Sheriffs, which the name stated is sheriff from space, defend peace from intergalactic criminals. They are the enforcers of peace and justice sent by the Galaxy Federal Police, to protect the universe from the forces of evil. Ren explained to them. The pro-heroes, Big Three, Tsukachi, Eri, Midoriya, and Inko were amazed by the space sheriffs, protecting the universe from evil intergalactic criminals. Then there's the Ultraman or Ultramen, heroic aliens that hail from the land of light. They can change their size to fight against giant monsters across the galaxy wherever they cause trouble. Ren said everyone was even more amazed as they couldn't stop listening to these amazing heroes. And let's not forget about the Marvel and DC universes. Their universe is very similar to your world with tons of heroes, anti-heroes, and villains with their own powers and original stories. Now this got everyone really curious about what the Marvel and DC universes were like. As much I like to talk about the other heroes. It might be best to see it for yourselves. Ren's eyes drifted to Zero, who was ready to transfer more information to the people in the room. If you were impressed by the Sentai, then get a load of these heroes. Zero said as he raised his hand to snap his fingers. Best prepare yourself for this. What you're about to see is going to be super mind-blowing. Usato warned them. If seeing the Sentai history shocked you as it did earlier, then this next batch of information is going to be worse, Gorosaki added as he was worried about their mental health. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 6. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author GokuMuto on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.